Hi everyone, welcome back to Max Electronics. My name is Max and today we will be restoring this speaker. The story is, a friend of mine actually had it for quite a while and she kept it on her cabinet, which is pretty tall, away from cats, and because cats would knock it over all the time. So one day the cats were smart enough to get on the cupboard and push it off, and as you can see it smashed in pieces. There was an LCD display there that smashed it. It's pretty much destroyed, but I remember the sound from the speaker and it was really nice. So let's get to the restoration. So here is the speaker. It was stored under the house. She didn't want to throw it away, and because she really liked it as well. And then one day she was cleaning the house and she said, look, if you want it, you have it, or I'll throw it away. So I thought I'll have it, and I'm thinking let's restore it. So it's a speaker bar that is quite large. It doesn't fit on the bench, so I'll show you like this. So we've got the sub driver. We've got two mid-range speakers and two tweeters for stereo. Now it is sealed. I'll show you this end, and I remember back in the day I've modified it to work with lithium batteries, so you can see a solar charger there, which was actually used to charge the batteries when it was plugged in. I'm not sure if it's still got batteries inside, but it is sealed here, so that compartment just contains electronic, and then there is around here, there's just a piece of wood that seals the speaker compartment itself. So we will be fully restoring it. As you can see, there's some of the stuff peeling off here, which I will re-laminate, so that doesn't matter. I'll put fresh stickers on it. So we're going to fully refurbish it. What I'm going to do now, off camera, I'm going to remove all the drivers from here, and I'll remove all the electronics. And then we'll have a look at the electronics parts itself. Let's go over the main body. I have removed all the electronics and everything that was inside, so we'll go over the body first and what I'm going to do to it, and then I'll show you the rest. So there is actually three compartments in this speaker. So first one we've got here, which is where the amp sits and all the electronics, and you can see that board there. The second one is where that's that board here again. So then we've got our mid-range tweeter, and then we got another mid-range, and then there is a board again that is right here. See if I can show you. Right there. Wait, there. So that's the board that separates the woofer from the rest of the speaker, and that's the woofer compartment with the bottom. So woofer also has a little exhaust, which I have removed. Where is it? There it is. So that little vent. That will be reinstalled once I'm done. There's also a little bit of a damage here on the enclosure that is soft, so I will remove that tape and I'll repatch it. So since this is just a laminate and you can buy this easily from your local hardware store, you can see there's a peeled piece. I think I've used it for CDJs as well to cover that stuff. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to peel everything I can, so all this layer, and I'm going to glue places like that. So as you can see, that's actually a piece of wood coming off, so I'll glue the piece of wood, I'll remove that, I will patch all the holes. Notice there are holes here, and those ones in the center, those little ones, they were there for the actual little grill that goes on top of the speaker, you know, and it clips in. So I've removed those little rubber things, rubber feet I guess, where that grill goes into, because I don't have a grill and we'll not be using it. And I'll use probably liquid nails since they're very tough, and I'll seal all those holes. I will seal those little things here that are cutouts for the top panel to come on, I guess, but it's all broken. So fix it all up, re-laminate it, and that would be that with this. So we won't see this anymore until the end of the video, I guess, until I reinstall everything. Now let's move on to the next step. So the next part I want to show you is the solar charger that I've put into it a while back, and I actually was just pulling it apart and I'm thinking, why did I put the solar charger in there? You know, for lithium batteries, solar charger doesn't make any sense. But I remembered that actually it was lead acid batteries that we've installed there. So we will have a quick look at this charger and all the accessories that don't belong to the speaker itself. So there was a little relay to switch it to charging, which is a 12 volts DC single pole dual throw. A little switch with the light, and I remember that switch was for the battery to activate, so that was literally in line with a lead acid battery. So if you want to use it, you flick it on, and then the power is applied to the stereo, because the speaker bar still had a standby power, and to avoid it, you just turn it off. And then the solar charger, which was the speaker, as you can see here. That's the main jack for the speaker. With the diode, there was a cable that I just snipped off. It would be going from the solar output where the light is, so that would be going there. And backwards from here, it would be going as solar, so it was interconnected with that jack, and then the battery obviously was connected to battery. So what happens is when you plug it in, you can use the stereo from a normal power source, and at the same time the battery will be charging, but as soon as you unplug it, the solar charger would switch to the battery power. And of course, if you press that button, the battery will switch off. So this is it for the solar. I'll keep that. I'll open it up for you because it's very simple. You just pop the cover off. It says it's model CTK5S, 6/12 volts, 10 amps. And the little lid pops off. And here is the little circuit board that is inside there. It has those switches here. I am not sure what they're for because I haven't got a schematic, but I think it's something to do with current and maybe switching the 6 volts or 12 volts. I assume those two contacts would be for the monitoring of the solar, of the lead acid battery temperature, but they obviously not used. Could be. I need to download the manual. I'm sure there's plenty of those on eBay, and if I search it, they'll explain everything. Microcontroller, red LED for charge, then we've got green and red dual color for battery, I guess when it's flat and when it's good, and the load when load is applied. This is MOSFETs. I assume it's NCE 30H10K, so 10, I assume 30 volts, 10 amps, maybe. Yeah, there's 3 of them. Those two are in parallel, and this one is separate. So I guess one of them would be for load, and those would be for charging, or other way around. All right, so this is it. This is not about the solar charger, so we'll put that aside. And let's have a look at the speakers and the amp. So here is an amp circuitry from inside. It's got STA540 amplifier, which is a quad amp. Can be used as a dual amp. It's got a receiver on it, radio FM receiver, maybe AM, I don't remember. So it's got also auxiliary input. It's got the data and clock for the other board that's got Bluetooth. We'll have a look at that in a second. And it handles the main power supply. So power supply comes here. Speakers going on the sides, and we've got all 4 speakers here set up. So we've got the sub, we've got mids and highs, so they paired, 1 connector per left and right and sub, obviously. Then let's clear this up for now and have a look at this part, which is all rusty again. I will not be using, it's got auxiliary in the top as well, so there's 2 aux cords. One is RCA, one is TRS 3.5. It's got the iPhone 5, it says in the back there, jack, which I will definitely not be using. That lead will go. So it's got power, play, repeat, I guess, tune or skip the track, volume, source select, and that's about it. That's where the screen's supposed to be, but the screen is no longer there. So I will desolder once the soldering heats up. Went into sleeping mode. I'll unplug the iPhone connector because I will not be using that. There we go. And I'll desolder that grounding wire. So we can see here Bluetooth module, which looks like a typical eBay Bluetooth module. Just on the side here, let me zoom in. So here it is. We've got a processor, which is C and A. That actually could be, that's not a processor, that's the LCD driver. I'll see if I have some LCDs, maybe I'll work something up. I've got a few LCDs. It's just a normal polarized numeric, 7-segment type of LCD. We've got the processor here. I assume that would be the processor. CNA, so it is dedicated, they're all dedicated. And we've got something else here, 4052 YD, not sure. So that's the main board. Okay, let's desolder this. That LED is the backlight for the, as far as I remember, it's blue, and it's the backlight for the LCD, and that's a standby LED. Let's clean this up and plug it all together, see if it works. I've interconnected the two boards and the speakers all together, so I'm just going to snip off the plug for the power, because I'll have to redo it anyway. And we'll connect it to a bench power supply. My power supply is set to 16 volts, whatever they're recommending. So here we go. Alright, so it's in standby mode, so far so good. Let's turn it on. Okay, that worked. I'm not sure which mode it is at the moment, because again there is no screen. But let's try source. Okay, we've got the tuner. Let's see if it picks something up. I've got a bad reception here, but let's try. Okay, so it all works. I'm gonna switch it to something else, just because we don't want content copyright coming up on YouTube. So I will see if I can get a Bluetooth to work. I'll just get my phone right now. Well, let's have a look if we can find the device. I'm not sure. I think maybe it's Bluetooth music. It'd be interesting if I'm connecting to some neighbors, because it is 2:20 in the morning and the speaker will suddenly beep. Okay, so nothing yet. Let's try pressing it again and refreshing that. Nothing. Okay, so I'm playing at the moment and it's working. No problems. It sounds really teeny because the speakers are not in the box, so that is discovered. Let me just explore more with inputs. Okay, so I have experimented now, and Bluetooth is working fine. So if we start from the tuner, since we hear the tuner first, second press would be the iPhone, which is now redundant. We don't have it. The third press would be the Bluetooth. The fourth is RCA on the back of the amp here. And the fifth is auxiliary on the top here. Now we know the system is working. All I need to do now is to get rid of the buttons, make an interface, which I'll probably make on the speaker. So I'm going to get started on the speaker refurb, the box itself, and then we'll, once the box is ready, we're going to start putting it all together. I thought you might be interested in having a look at this lightning connector for the iPhone. It appears that it has probably about 10 wires going into it that goes into the main board, but if we open it up, we find that it's actually just 4 pins. It's pretty rigid jack, so people don't snap it off. And there is a diagram, so we'll go 4 grounds, data minus, data plus, 3 plus 5 volts, and iPhone detect, I-detect. So this looks like a standard USB protocol, and I'm thinking of getting a USB-A type plug, female, and connecting it to the circuit board and using it as a USB port, so it may work with just playing MP3s off the USB. If it doesn't, I can always just use iPhone cable and plug it into the USB port and the phone. So this way I don't waste one input. So let me experiment with this and make up a little cable and see if it works. So before I play around with USB, I've decided to finish the actual speaker box. So this is 24 hours later. I've cleaned up and I've put all this, well, all the holes that I've plugged in. I've used the liquid nails first on them to correct it all, whatever the problem, and there was a hole in the back here, and on top I've used gap filler, and then I sanded it back so it's nice and smooth. Obviously this edge here will be a bit rough because it's broken woods there, so anyway, try my best. But I thought I'll assemble speakers and put an amp in before we play with this control board. So this control board, as I was looking for buttons, you know, those flex buttons as a stickers, I thought of using them. Then I came up with another idea. So those buttons, they actually using a resistors to determine which button is pressed. So first of all, I want to do a little jack that will allow me to have an external remote control. Because I'm planning to use this speaker in a lab, and it's got a couple of auxiliary inputs, I'm planning on having one auxiliary hooked up to computer, you know, for music or something, and the second one hooked up as a jack that I can plug in, say, a tracer, like audio tracer to it, or some audio equipment just on the bench, and it'll be handy to have like a volume, power, and source buttons on the bench as well, or maybe even just volume and source for switching. So as I was looking for a button switch I couldn't find, I found a couple of options. The first one, I thought of using this module. This module actually contains, that would fix all the problems. I would have to replace this card, this one, and just use an amp and have this player there. So this one has a radio, it has SD card, USB, all the buttons, and it has a remote control and a little display. So I could use, you know, FM radio and all of that, but then that means that board will be wasted because those two boards have to work with each other. I can use this just as an amp, but I can't use this on its own as a radio receiver or anything like that. And then I had another idea of using this panel, which is, I think, from a projector. It's got buttons, they're all, I think, backlit, and I could use, you know, power button, volume up, down, skip, play. Then I can have source as a source, and I can have, you know, auxiliary input USB and just blank one button out. I'm pretty sure that's all the buttons, yeah. So I'm thinking I'll use that because it's in a lab, so there's no point wasting this good unit. So I'm going to continue with the box, and I bought this blackboard thing that is not cheap. It's $7 for a sheet of this. It's a sticky paper. And it is just like the speaker, so it's this laminate. Unfortunately, I couldn't find the big sizes, so the only ones that were for sale at the local hardware store is 45 by 60 centimeters, and I had to buy a couple of those. I could order some from eBay, but you know, it'll take anywhere from a month to 6 months to come, so I didn't want to wait that long, so I just bought a few rolls of this, and I'm going to laminate the speaker and insert all the amp and the actual drivers in, but not that board, and then we'll return to this board. So I'm going to laminate it off the camera, and I'll show you the finished result. I finished the speaker finally. Here it is. To be honest, I'm a bit disappointed with that sticky paper, because if you can see here, it still comes up with the bubbles. It doesn't stick well. If I knew that, I would have, you know, probably polished it and spray painted it or something. It still looks better than before. As you can see, it looks nice. Here's my fingerprints. It looks heaps better. Here's the woofer. Now, the top is done as well. Except we still got the problem, the amp is inside. I can see if I can try showing you. So amp, as you can see, is right in there. And that's our control board that we're going to be working on, trying the USB. Let me just put the speaker down. But before we do all that, I want to do the control board. So here is that control board from a projector that I was talking about before. I want to use the light that was supposed to be used for the backlight of the LCD originally in the speaker, probably, if there is, because they look semi-clear, so there may be a backlight. So I will use backlight for the buttons, and red light would be for the power button. But first, let's have a look what it's like inside. And again, I'm not going to be wiring every button. It looks like the system on there is a resistive button, so all I'll do is just add a couple of resistors and 2 wires for the buttons, and it's done. So let's open this up. Now I haven't been inside here, so we're going to open it together. And there we go. So they're not backlit. I thought they would be backlit. We've got a dual LED here for the power, I guess, right here. So that's what I will be using for the on and off. So I'll use the red one for off, and the other color is whatever that is on here for on, which is supposed to be originally backlight for the LCD display, but yeah, that'll work. So again, I will be removing a few buttons, unwanted buttons, and putting maybe USB or let's get the rubber out. Here are the buttons. Yeah, I'd probably have to cut them out just to put the ports in and stuff, but that'll work. Let's check out this board and see if it's just individual buttons. I may have to link them if I'm doing the resistive thing. Oh, it's got a microcontroller in there. Alright, well, that'll have to go. Alright, let me just have a look what's what, and we'll wire the buttons correctly, and then we'll test it out with the actual unit. After a couple of intimate hours with the board, I've modified it and gotten rid of all the components which are here. There's a chip, which I'll Google later what it is, buttons, everything, resistors, all of that stuff. Just a tiny stuff here that you probably can't even see, right there. So anyway, I've left all the buttons that we need, which is next to previous, play stop in the center, volume up and down, and source. And there's a power button. So that little thing here, I had to change an LED. That is actually, let me zoom right in and see if I can show you. That's actually a button and LED, 2 LEDs together. So here it is. As you can see, they were both green LEDs in here. So it's a dual illumination, and the button is right here in the center. So I had to change one LED to orange. So this way I would have, you know, off, when it's off it's orange, when it's green it's on. So I've added all the buttons on that module, which I'll show you from the speaker, are resistive. So they're in line, which is, I've drawn here according to what they have there. So if you have a look here, they have resistors. This is the output that goes to the controller, and then we have 102, which is 1K, then we have 12Ks, all in series, and the buttons branch off from here. So if you short it line directly to 0, it'll be triggering source. If you put a 1K resistor through it, it'll be volume down. If you put 1.2, like, and so on. So 2Ks, because that'll be together, it'll be volume up, and they all add up together until it reaches play pause, which is the last one, and all totals up at 7K. So here's a little list that I did as well. So if you want to press play, you short out 2 pins with a 7K resistor. If you want to press down, it's 5.1K, and so on. So there's 8 pins here that I've done. Here's the back of the board. There are 8 pins, originally were here, so I've used them all, and they were, as you can see, I didn't do much of the bodging, just a bit. The wires are mostly running for LEDs, so they are the ones that because the LEDs are independent on that board, there is no common ground or common positive. So the wires are running there. You can see there's a few resistors that I've added, and the pins are as follows. So you've got 2 grounds. Then those 2 pins are going to orange LED, positive and negative. The side 2 pins going to green LED, positive and negative. The left one, the second one, is the button control, which is in reference to ground. So once you short it with a resistor, that'll change the buttons. And the next one, the third one, is the power button. It is separate from the controls, and that's, again, you short it to ground, the power will go on and off. I also decided to remove that original sticker. And what I've done, I'm going to use the same sticky material, and I will remove the buttons. I've already have removed the physical buttons. So I've glued those 3 buttons that are not going to be in use. I've removed this and I'm going to check this out. There's a hot glue on the back here, and I've cut the buttons of the control panel also. So you can see those 3 buttons are missing. What I'm going to do is cut out using one of those that I've wrapped the speaker in film, and I'll stick the film on top, and I've cut out the buttons that I need. This way I won't have any holes or spare spaces. Now let's have a look at what I've done with this board. That's the original speaker board. So I've removed all the rusty buttons, as you can see, and LEDs. So the board is nice and clean on this side. And on this side I've tagged the external aux, because it was on board, so I've just did the externally because there's nowhere else to put it. Then this cable, the multicolored multi-core, is the one that's going for the buttons and for the control panel, so that will be just plugging into here. Which way? This way. There we go. I haven't tested it yet, so we're going to test it together. I did measure the outputs as I was soldering the resistors and just testing out to make sure the buttons are correct. And those two, the orange and black, are the same as the button control. So black is the ground and the orange is the same as button control. I'm thinking of putting another jack and using an external control that I can use, you know, on the desk if the speaker is higher up, and I'm going to use this speaker in the lab. So I can mount the button somewhere in the desk there, and it'll be a volume and a source, let's say, and that'll be enough for me to say if I'm using a computer and listening to music, and then I can plug something in, like say some sort of audio device to test or something, and I can just press source and adjust the volume to my needs. That would be very comfortable. So let's plug it in now and see if the whole thing works with my modifications. Power supply is now set. Let me just get this in frame, and I'm going to apply 16 volts now. Alright, so the orange light did come on very dimly, so I may need to change the resistor. You can barely see it there. So let's press the power button and see what happens. Okay, the green one comes on pretty clearly. And let's try pressing source until we hit the radio. That's the radio. The volume works. Let's try scanning for stations. Pretty bad reception here, but it does work. Okay, so everything's working fine except that orange LED that is really dull. So let me track down where the resistor for that orange LED is, and I'll change it to something lower value so it's brighter. Give me a second. I've added 100 ohm resistor. It was a 1 kilo ohm, so let's see if there's any change, because it's a 3 volt, I'm pretty sure, network. So let's see. Oh, yep, that's definitely a lot brighter now. Let me get it in the center of the screen, and if I press it, yep. Let me zoom right in so you can see. That's on now, so it's on green. And now if I turn it off, it is orange. Okay, now I'm going to assemble this control panel into the that little thing that I've just done. I'm going to try peeling that thing and see if it actually cured fine. When you're doing this sort of thing and using a hot glue gun, peel backwards. Don't peel upwards, because you will be pulling, you know, all this glue. So peel right back. And just do it slowly, and there we go. The button's filled, and it's actually almost impossible to fill it, just a different texture. So once I put the sticky plastic on, it should be just fine. So when you're doing it, don't try, you know, like for example, if I want to do this one, yeah, don't try sticking it on and just doing this, and you know, like, because now what I've done, I've put a dent in there. The way I usually do it is you put it on just slightly, just like that, and then you grab something to rub with, and you go around the perimeter until you can see it starts to developing, like where it sticks. But do not press in the center. This way it's flat. And then you go to the other side and fill it in with a hot glue. Let it set, and then peel the masking tape off. So I'll peel this off as well, all the way back, and slowly. Yep, and then the next one. And there we go. And they're all really nice and smooth. If I can find the buttons, here they are. So once the button go inside, there we have our control panel. But before I put this all together, I'm gonna use this black plastic and stick it on and cut out the holes, and then I'll assemble it and we'll have a look at the ready panel. Here's the control panel done. The only thing that I don't like is the screws, because I did the hot glue from the front and then I stuck the tape, so I know not to do that again. That was a mistake. But the rest where the button's supposed to be, as you can see, very nice, very smooth, and you can't even tell that the buttons were there. Now let's plug it in. I haven't plugged it in since I assembled it. And I'll give it 16 volts. Here we go. And there we go, it glows red, as you can see. And now we'll power it up. And it's green.
In traditions. This is
and
the final frontier.
There is the radio station.
If we lose this floodplain, we have lost that.
So everything works fine with the panel. Great. Now let me just figure out how I'm going to do this top, which you can't see right now, but that's where the amp sits, and fit it all. And also I'm actually going to do the USB port. So let's try USB and see what happens. If I don't think it will be able to play off the USB stick, but definitely be able to plug the phone into the USB port. So give me a sec on that and we'll see what happens. Actually, my thinking of since there's the back of it, as you can see, it's just recessed and there's nothing here, I might put a USB port and the aux cord here, so they'll be just on the panel in the front. So let's figure out the USB now. Here's a moment of truth. I've got the cable, I've got the phone here. I think it may not work because of the detect pin, which is a control pin, but we'll give it a go. So I'll plug that in. Which way? Yep. New USB ports. All right, I will power up the speaker. So we're turning the speaker on and we get it into tuner mode since we don't have a screen, and the second one should be the phone. Okay, and now we'll put it into the phone mode and plug the phone in and see what happens. Let's see. The phone is charging. Okay, so it is playing through the phone. Let's try shorting that pin, the eye detect, to ground and see what happens. So that works. Now I'm gonna power the speaker off and I'm gonna short the pin to ground. Okay, I've shorted the eye detect pin to ground. Let's power the speaker again. And turn it on. The phone is charging straight away. Now let's power it on. And the controls work too, as you can see. Just so you can see on here, I don't want YouTube to kick in. So if I do volume, and it works. Now the other trick I wanted to try is just USB. I don't know if it'll play off USB itself, but we know now that it works off the phone. Let's try plugging USB stick and see if it'll read USB stick. I've got a little USB stick with music on it. It's actually my car USB, so all the music's on it. Let's plug it in and see what happens. And it doesn't work. So phones will work with that USB modification, but the USB sticks, not so much. Okay, well, at least now we know that that USB port can be used for phone charging and playing music of the phone. So now I am going to add an extra port for the remote. I'm going to build the USB and the external aux cord into here, and cut out a little plastic for the top, and once it's all done I will show you the ready speaker. Here is the ready top, which is the panel that's going to go on top of the speaker. That's the back of it with the board with the Bluetooth and the rest of the stuff. I've pre-drilled the holes and I've also piloted the speaker itself. So let me attach that to the speaker and we'll check it out, what it looks like. Here is the ready speaker, or honestly not one of my best restorations cosmetic wise, because I'm not happy with that film. It is expensive and it is, yeah, not sticking well at all, but here it is. And at the back I've done the little aux input as well, not aux, sorry, remote input. So here it is. That's for resistive remote that I will be using probably as a desk, as I've explained earlier. So that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Not very proud of the cosmetic restoration of that thing, but that's it. So we had a smashed broken speaker and now it's a working one. Thanks for watching. Stick around for the next video. My name is Max. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Bye.